about what we expect to learn in this course and what this is about. Well, let's start thinking about the biggest challenge of every business. The biggest challenge is that a business has to achieve growth and profitability. And so how is the business to do that? The main thing is that the business wants to reach out to its appropriate customer segments and make sure that these segments are aware about the business, its products and its services, and they continue to be engaged with the brand of the business, right? So let's think a little bit more about customers. How do these customers do that? How do these customers remain engaged with the business? These customers go through a decision-making process, which is sometimes also called a customer journey. And as a result of this decision-making process, they end up making a purchase with the business, right? Now, this decision-making process of the consumers is not, is not amorphous. It is pretty well defined. Typically, it goes through many steps, like customers think about their need to buy a product. And once they become aware of their need, then they start thinking about what are the options that they have to fulfill their need. And in this process, they become aware about the brand of the business because the business may be actually supplying a solution or a product to fulfill their need. Once customers go to this stage, they may learn not only about the particular business, but about many, many options that they might have. And so they do an active research to evaluate products and to compare brands to identify their top choices, right? And once they're able to identify their choices, then they decide finally on which brand they want to go with. And that's the time they make a purchase. And after the purchase has been made, now it's time for consumers to use the product. And if they are happy at the time when they use the product, then the customers may spread a word of mouth, which is positive for the product. And they may also repurchase the product in the next time they want to buy something like this, right? So this is the entire phase of the customer journey. And you can think about the customers, starting from the initial phase of the journey when they're just aware about their need and they're aware about some brands, to the entire process of how they figure out which brand to go with, and eventually when to repurchase and how to affect their friends and their behavior in terms of purchasing, right? So you can see that this entire process is quite well defined. Now, clearly, businesses want to influence customers at every step of the customer journey, because if they are able to positively influence customers, then it's very likely that the end of the customer journey would be the customer buying from this business, right? So how do businesses end up influencing customers? They do that through various touch points, right? So we'll talk about touch points just in a minute. What you see on the slide out here is also a picture of the customer journey. You start with reaching out to your prospects and customers, right? That's just the initial influence that you want to have on your customers. Once customers become aware about you, you want to engage those customers. You want to achieve interaction with those customers. And once you are able to do that, the customers are likely to develop a preference for your brand, which will then convert into a lead or a sale. And once the customers have converted in your favor, you want to continue to engage these customers over time so that the customers may come back to purchase again from you, and if develop loyalties for your brand so that they can spread this positive word of mouth. So let's take an example to talk about these touch points. How are customers influenced by the business at various stages of their journey, right? And in this example, we'll consider the purchase of a washing machine. Now, the stages of the customer journey have been listed here as awareness. Initially, you are becoming aware about the various brands of the washing machine that are out there. Then you want to evaluate these different brands. So that's the evaluation phase of the customer journey. And then finally, we have the conversion phase when you actually buy. So we are considering these three customer journey phases out here. Now, which are the touch points that will influence these journey phases? If you think about 1995, this is actually pre-search engine era, right? And of course, pre-social media era. In that time, the customers were likely to become aware about the various brands of the washing machine only through newspaper ads, right? Because that was the best way to kind of inform your consumers. And the newspaper ads are not really a digital touch point, they are a physical touch point. Similarly, after becoming aware about the product, when you moved on to the evaluation phase as a customer, you would end up going to a physical shop and walk around the shop and look at what your options are. And then you would like to discuss your option with the local expert in the shop, which was the sales guy. And again, so this is also a physical touch point. And based on that discussion and based on the understanding that you have developed, you will end up, preferring one particular washing machine. And then is the conversion phase where you actually pay the money and buy the machine. And that also typically happened in the physical touch point of the retailer shop where you were, right? So these are all of these touch points you can see are physical touch points, and that was the situation in 1995. But if you fast forward to today, to 2020 and 2021, all of these touch points have changed. They have become rather digital in nature. So if you want to become aware about a brand, very few people will actually become aware through newspaper ads. Rather, they would, when there is a need to buy a washing machine, they would use a search engine to search for washing machines. And based on the search results, they would develop their awareness about various brands. If they want to evaluate and compare different brands of the washing machine, then they would look at things like product reviews, right? And that would help them evaluate and choose between the various brands and develop a preference for one of the washing machines, right? And finally, at the conversion phase, they might actually not go to a physical retailer shop. Rather, they might just buy from an online retailer like Amazon and maybe others, right? So you can see that the importance of the digital touch points has increased over the years, and today we have got many, many digital touch points which are actually preferred by the customers as compared to the physical touch points. So how are these different? How are the digital and the traditional touch points different? Well, the purpose of these touch points is to find the right customers at the right time on their customer journey and to influence them. How are businesses able to do that? They are able to do this based on information about customers, right? The information about what do these customers like, which phase of the customer journey they are in at a particular point of time, right? And even traditional media touch points like a television, for example, uses a lot of information. They have idea about the demography of the people who are watching a particular show. And again, depending upon the content of the show, they have an idea about what are the likely interests of the people. So if somebody is watching a sports program, then clearly their interest is in this area, right? If people are watching a particular type of soap opera, then you know that this is a particular kind of demography of people who are watching this kind of a show, right? So the ads that were shown on a particular TV show would then be tuned with the interest and the demography who were interested in those shows, right? So is digital media then any different? And the answer is yes, it is different. It is actually better at finding the right customers at the right time of their customer journey. So why do I say that? Why is digital media better than these traditional touchpoints? The reason is that much more information about customers is available through these digital media. So for example, if customers search on a search engine, then customers are actively displaying that they have a current intent to buy a washing machine, for example, right? So clearly this is an appropriate time to target this customer with certain kind of advertising, right? Now, this information about current intent was never available when somebody was just watching TV, right? So clearly then digital touch points are better at uncovering the current intent. Similarly, if you think about the location, we can trace the location of a customer, for example, today through their mobile devices, right? And based on the current location of the customer, a certain kind of ads may be more appropriate, and which may or may not have been possible by using physical media. For example, if you are using newspapers, right? The same newspaper would go out to everyone, and it is not possible to show an tailored ad to a person based on their current location. Also, social media plays a very important role as part of this digital media, and ads can be tailored based on who you are friends with. So these are some examples to just showcase to you that digital media touchpoints are based on a lot of new kind of information, which actually helps target the right customers at the right time in a better way than what was possible through just physical touchpoints. Okay. So to summarize all this, to achieve growth in the businesses, businesses need to find the right customers. They want to identify the right customers, and then they want to reach out to these customers at the right stage of their customer journey, right? This is what the businesses need to do. And the digital media touch points actually help to do that. And they actually also help in affecting the customer behavior properly, appropriately at each stage of the customer journey. And what I described to you just now is the business of platforms like Google and Amazon and Facebook, right? And because it is based on analysis of data, this is where the role of web analytics becomes very prominent, right? So to then conclude this part of the lecture, the objective of the course of web analytics is to understand that how digital media can be used effectively using data analytics to improve the objectives of the business to achieve growth and profitability. Hello, everyone. Let's start by talking.